willkommen zum den Podcast Nerds. Ich bin Larry Brantley und ich bin hier mit meinen Freunden Michter Donahoe.
Greetings, programs.
Brent Williams.
Willkommen.
See, it wasn't so hard.
Yeah, I don't know any German at all.
No German whatsoever?
No,
you couldn't even say Schnitzengruber or something? I don't know.
Sauerkraut.
I totally threw that on. I totally threw that on you, dude.
I know how to say thank you and welcome.
You're welcome. So how you do that?
Bitte?
Yeah.
How do you say welcome?
Oh, was that not welcome?
No.
And that's our Duolingo for the week, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Hey, welcome back to the podcast, everybody. We already did the introductions in German. If you didn't understand it, use Google Translate. You'll figure it out. Anyway, we are the Nerd Herfers. We are three middle-aged guys who enjoy cigars and whiskey and all the nerdy shit we loved when we were kids. And that's sort of how the program works every week. We get some cigars. We don't know what they're going to be. It's whoever brings them. We get a bottle of whiskey. That is also a surprise. The only thing we talk about ahead of time is the topic of conversation that we are going to nerd into the ground. And boy, oh boy, do we have a good one for you this week. But first, it's time for... Nerd News. That's last week's news today. We are joined in the studio now by our anchorman, Brent Williams. Brent, what nerdy news have you got for us this week?
All right. I have no sad news except...
Oh, God.
Okay.
It's a lie. It's a total lie.
No. We just have to acknowledge the passing of James Earl Jones.
Agreed.
Yes, he's
Agreed.
a complete icon.
God rest him.
Yes.
Oh, man.
He was
Just
93, I think.
93 years old.
Yeah.
And he just... when you talk about a guy who didn't have anything else to prove in his life or his career, he was, and I'll never forget him as. So I think the first time I ever saw James Earl Jones was as Lieutenant LOTR Zog in Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb with Peter Sellers. So if you've never seen that movie, it's a classic Stanley Kubrick film. It's a comedy, which is unusual for Kubrick, but watch it. Then Thulsa Doom from Conan the Barbarian.
Yep.
And he was Mufasa, but most important, I think, to this crowd, he was the voice of Darth Vader.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was really glad that you agreed with me, and you weren't going to jump in and go, he was actually the first voice of CNN. This is CNN.
Wasn't that Walter Cronkite?
It wasn't, actually.
Oh, sorry.
He was, but good try.
Okay.
But yes, so yes, he brought out the nerd in all of us. He was such a talented guy, and gonna miss you, James. Thank you so much. What else you got for us?
Well, I know you guys have been wondering about this. And
Usually when he says that, it means we haven't been wondering at all.
yeah,
But go ahead.
you can buy a diamond making machine on Alibaba for $200,000.
No way.
So if you want to make your own diamonds, clean out your
Diamonds?
savings.
Is it called
Cubic-
DIYD?
Cubic zirconia or...
Well, lab grown diamonds.
Right.
There's a couple ways they make those, but anyway.
I was always kind of confused about that. Lab-grown diamonds, especially when the whole idea is pressure and time, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't get it.
I
Of
read-
course, you also just
That's
described
not
all of our
growing,
jobs, too. Pressure and time.
I mean, that's not really growing. That's more compressing, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, I don't know how it works.
Okay.
I saw
Yeah.
something about they said there's two ways to do it, and that's when they lost me. And one of them said something about vapors. I don't know. I don't know how it works.
Well, often after I eat Mexican food, I have the vapors. I've never been able to create diamonds from
the
those
vapors,
vapors.
hello there. The vapors.
I do believe I have the
I'm
vapors.
feeling verklempt.
Oh, I'm so terribly sorry to all my family at the table and to all of you poor people at the restaurant.
All right.
No,
well,
go get the cucumber sandwich.
So Google has a new AI gaming engine, and get this, its name is called Game Engine.
Oh, man. They
Yeah.
are so original with
Yeah,
their names.
that's
It's
pretty
like
cool.
something out of Letterkenny with that energy. Indian energy.
Indian Energy.
NDN.
RG.
But anyway, so it can recreate Doom, like the classic Doom.
Wow.
And basically any game. Basically what it does is it plays the game and learns everything about it, and then it can recreate everything it ingests.
Right.
And it creates it in real time. It's at about 20 frames per second versus the 120 frames per second in the real game. And it does it in real time it recreates it frame by frame in real time. So each frame is based on the last frame that it generates. Anyway, there's a video of it doing the playthrough, and it's pretty amazing, actually. I mean, it looks like the real thing.
And so
Right.
what is the benefit to the consumers?
Well, eventually what they want to do is they want AI to be able just to create games. Like just give it a prompt and say, I want a game that does this.
I don't want that.
Right.
I don't want that at all.
I don't want that.
I mean, there's a whole industry around this. These are people that have jobs
Sure.
and careers based around this, and if AI is going to take it all over.
Well, it's funny that you say that because to add on to the nerd news, the Screen Actors Guild is currently on strike in Los Angeles against the video gaming industry for this exact reason.
wow.
Yeah, I mean it's I got lots of friends out there in LA and they're walking the picket lines because what is it, Silicon Valley, all that, all the internets started out there in California,
Right.
and apparently the industry out there has no compunctions about it whatsoever. Like they're not weighing the morality of it or the ethics of it. They're just like, well, yeah, we could do it and it'd be a lot cheaper. So,
Well, Peter Cushing's agent is suing Disney and Lucasfilm for
Rogue One.
for the AI. Although, Disney says the contract allowed them to do that, but the agent is saying they didn't have the right to do it, and they're doing it in British courts, not in the U.S. So,
Interesting.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was an issue. It's been so long.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Well,
I'm with you, dude.
and
I
James-
don't want AI to just write a game.
Well, James Earl Jones, and I think it was in 2021 or 2022, signed permission that they could AI generate his voice for like future movies and games and whatever property they put out, whatever IP they put out.
That feels like legacy, though. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like he knew that he was done
Right.
with his career, and he probably wanted to, not see Star Wars. Fighting words. Apologies.
Just kidding.
Probably
No,
didn't want to
just-
see.
you're the Star Trek guy. We were like, what are you rigging on yourself there? What's going on, buddy?
But just being able to give the Star Wars fans, I mean, the next time they use Vader, because they will, he's too popular not to use him again.
Well, look, there's a word that's bandied around today, and it's called consent.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right.
what else?
Kevin Smith has a new movie out, 4:30.
We were going to go. We talked about this a while ago. We were all going to go see this at some point.
Were we? Did we talk about this?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we did. Like,
Yeah, we were
like
by the
5 or 6
pool.
episodes
Oh,
ago.
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Like maybe even one of the first or second episodes.
It's very, very clear now that I am the oldest guy in the room.
No, we're supposed to have a field trip.
that?
And especially since we all did that. Actually, it was like one of the first times you started
Well,
talking about
apparently
Guns Point Mall.
it's being hailed as his best film in almost 30 years.
Really?
And,
Hasn't it been almost 30 years
yeah.
since he made a movie?
Probably.
Well, he did Clerks 3, and
That is true.
But I love the idea of this. It's 3 friends. It's set in 1986. These 3 friends, and they sneak in to see movies on Saturdays. One guy's totally crushing on a girl, invites her to see a rated R movie. Ken Jeong plays the theater manager.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
great.
he's always trying to stop them from doing stuff or whatever. So it's all about him trying to get to see this movie with this girl and all the hilarity that ensues in that process and
That
stuff.
sounds
So,
like a Kevin Smith movie.
yeah.
I'm excited to see him come back and do something like this. I mean, I'd actually like to have an episode on Kevin Smith one day.
We could totally do that.
Cool. That sounds great.
Yeah.
So I was thinking was that the last couple of movies that Kevin's done, is because he doesn't own the rights to his previous characters anymore, except for Jay and Silent Bob, which is why he's been coming up with those Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Yeah,
and all this
and
stuff.
Jay and Silent Bob are not in this movie, but there are cameos by like people from Mallrats and Clerks. And all
I
this
kind of
stuff.
feel
Yeah.
like what Kevin should do is what Taylor Swift did. Go back and remake all of his movies. And then he would own them.
Well, and the last couple of movies that he's done have been, they've been kind of love letters to the fans, closing loops. And if you didn't really watch them before, I really don't feel like Clerks 3 and Jay and Silent Bob reboot hold up on their own if you didn't have the history behind it.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
All right. Well, continuing entertainment news. So Superman Legacy is going to be released next year.
Yes.
Finally.
And what's his name? David Cornsweet.
Corn Sweat?
Yeah,
I don't know how else to pronounce that.
Yeah, Cornsweet.
Wait, hang on.
we drink
We're
a
not
lot of-
making a joke right now?
No, that's his
No.
name, David Cornsweet.
David Cornsweat.
He was in
Corn
He was
Sweat.
in House of Cards.
I've
Actually, that's the only thing I know
seen
him
the
from.
picture. I've seen the
Yeah.
set pictures. I don't know the guy from
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
But now he will always be known to me as Corn Sweat.
Corn Sweat.
Yeah.
Cornsweet.
And we drink a lot of whiskey, so the first thing I thought of was, what percentage of corn sweat is... Never mind.
What's his mash bill?
What is Corn
his
Sweat's
mash
mash
bill?
bill?
Yes. So
So-
it's coming out next year.
Yeah. So and they're bringing back the red underwear.
Yes, saw
Heard
that.
about that.
Yeah. So
You haven't seen any set pictures? They've been all over the
Oh, I've
interwebs.
seen
Yeah,
I've
So
seen
yeah,
it.
because they said when Cavill with Superman. They did away with the red underwear because they said they wanted to modernize the suit, because
Right.
the original red of the Superman costume apparently was to honor strongmen in the circus. Because they wore those little
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
G-string things.
Sort of the pre-Speedo, if you will.
Yeah.
pre-speedo. Yeah, so the pre-banana hammock.
Yeah, they did a thing called New 52 for DC many years ago. It's like over 10 years now, where they just basically rebooted all stories. They gave Supes a new costume, and they took away his red underwear. And so that was the thing that was kind of the tribute, as I saw it, towards the new Man of Steel stuff with Henry Cavill.
Okay.
Well, and
Yeah, guess he's getting his Gutchies back.
so Batman, the new Batman, was just named as well.
So I heard about this, and I want you to tell me what it is. But every time I went to go look through these articles for this information, it kept alluding to Kevin Conroy's legacy.
No, his name is Coleman Domingo.
Okay,
Yeah.
I did see that name. Who is this? Do you?
He is a black actor, so Batman will be the first black Batman.
Okay,
Was there a black Batman in the comics?
not that I know of. But I didn't.
thought there was.
But I will admit that out of all the comic book reading that I do not read a lot of Batman.
Yeah,
No, you're more of a Superman.
I
I could
am.
be wrong. I thought there was, but I could be wrong. Because I don't read DC Comics at all.
Yeah,
so.
I don't remember there being one, and I've kept up with it pretty.
Anyway, I thought that's pretty cool. I'm curious to see what Gunn's doing with the DC.
Yeah,
I think all of us are, because
Yeah.
he's had such huge success in the MCU.
Yeah,
yeah.
With the Guardians franchise, and I think the stuff that he's done for DC, a la the Suicide Squad and the Peacemaker series, which I truly have enjoyed both of those.
Yeah, definitely.
So if anybody can turn that soup sandwich around, I think it's him. And I wish him the best.
As long
I'm
as
not
this-
optimistic, but I wish him the best.
As long as this new actor does a fair job of representing the character, that's
Be
all I
Bruce
care
Wayne,
about.
bro. Be Bruce Wayne. Be
Bruce
the
Wayne.
bat.
You know who would have been? You know who would have been? Probably too on the nose for this.
Idris Elba.
Idris Elba.
Did
I call it?
You
You
did,
did.
and we were all thinking it.
We're all thinking it.
We were all thinking it because
wanted
there
to
was
see
a
him as
brief
Bond.
time.
I mean, because
there was a brief time we thought it was
played
going to be
characters
Bond.
like that. Like even in Pacific Rim, his character is like a Batman type character. He's
Yeah.
this brooding guy with his past, and
Oh, like
You know.
Luther.
yeah.
Okay, topic for another day. Yeah. Sorry.
All right, final news story, and this is not sad at all.
Come in again.
I'll cover it again. Ian McKellen is hinting that he may be returning as Gandalf in the next Lord of the Rings movie. That's he says he's going to get a script in 2025. It's tentatively called The Hunt for Gollum,
Okay.
and Andy Serkis is slated to direct it.
Okay.
I'm thinking the same thing you're thinking. Isn't Ian McKellen already 106 years old?
Well, actually, I read an article the other day. It was funny. He was telling them if they're going to make any more movies and they want him, they better hurry up.
Yeah, that's legit.
You're right.
That's legit. It's
Yeah.
like the guy's self-aware enough to know that time is not on my side here,
Yeah.
bro.
Well, he says once he gets the script, he says he expects the script early next year, and then he'll make a decision whether or not he's gonna come back.
Okay.
But in the same breath, he says he can't see anyone else playing Gandalf but him, and he alluded to Harry Potter when they had the two different Dumbledores. But that was for a good
I
reason.
thought Michael Gamble did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Richard Harris.
Well, who doesn't love Richard Harris?
Yeah.
Irish
Yeah.
guy.
But
Everybody
then,
loves an Irish
of course,
guy.
he passed away, so they
Yeah,
had to get a new actor.
exactly.
Yeah. So anyway,
And that does it for this week's edition of Nerd News. It's last week's news today. Thank you guys so much. All right, it is time to get down to it. As we said at the top of the show, if you are joining us for the first time, every week one of us brings some cigars, one of us brings a bottle of whiskey, and one of us brings the topic of conversation. This week it was my turn to bring cigars, and without getting into too much hyperbole, boys, we've smoked a lot of cigars together, including on this show.
Yeah.
And I hesitate to say that this is going to be one of the greatest cigars you've ever smoked, but it's going to be really, really close. I would put it
Bold
based
statement.
on what I know you both like.
Okay.
And I'm fairly certain, I'm almost 100% certain, Micah, you've never had this cigar. Fairly certain Brent's never had it. This is absolutely one of my favorite cigars. It has existed in one blend since 2014. The blend was slightly changed a few years ago, to accommodate slightly larger ring gauges. This comes from our good friends at Oveja Negra, which you've had last rights before. I've had that on the show.
I love that one.
Now, that was from their Black Label Trading Company. This is their other collection, which is Blackworks Studio.
Okay.
This is a Ecuadorian Maduro wrapper combined with a Candela foot.
Hello.
All right.
And there are threads of Candela wrapped up in the cap as well. So when you cut or whatever you do, don't do it too shallow because you don't want to get rid of those.
Okay.
Just real quickly for our friends who are not very cigar savvy, a Candela wrapper on a cigar is a green wrapper. It is very mild and smooth. We'll get into at some other time how Candela tobacco is made, but just know that it is a very smooth, sort of fresh cut grass and wheat kind of flavor profile. So this, the foot of this cigar has a Candela. It's a closed foot with the end of it being a Candela wrapper, and then you got Candela in the front. You've got Ecuadorian Maduro predominantly wrapper. The binder and filler are both Nicaraguan. The first thing you're going to notice about this cigar is the striking look of it, and it was named after a superhero, or I should say not superhero, a crime fighter television series from the 60s that ran concurrently with Batman. And the sidekick's name in this show was Kato.
Green
I
Hornet.
give you the Hornet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I'm going to pass these out. And the first thing I want you to look at is just the cigar itself. Take it out of the cello and
Thank you.
get a gander at the construction of this cigar.
Oh,
So you're going to see
wow.
right away. First of all, the band is super cool. You've got the Hornet there, and that's from Blackworks Studio. The cigar itself has got a closed foot with a Candela end, and then you've got these threads of Candela that run through the top here. Now, because it's a completely closed foot cigar, you're not going to be able to get a cold draw off of this, but smell it ahead of time. I get espresso as the first thing that hits my nose, and I don't want to waste any time. I want to get right into this because you guys are going to enjoy this so much. So you see where the threads on that Candela are. If you're doing a V cut, you're fine. How are you cutting yours? Yeah,
I'm
you
good.
already did.
Mhm.
So I'm going to do a real shallow straight so that I don't lose that Candela, because what you'll find is with that Candela at the top of it, you're going to get notes of that. It's a balance thing.
Yeah.
So let's just go ahead and fire them up.
So it doesn't taste like mint.
Not at all.
I'm
Raisins.
Oh, you were trying to be funny.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes because it's you, I don't get that.
right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Sometimes when you talk, I just don't think you're funny.
Yeah. Well,
I'm so used to you saying that to me.
Yeah.
wow. Yeah. All right. Here we go. We're firing up our Hornets.
I'm trying to be a really nice guy, but because the Hornet is probably my least favorite bug on the planet.
No, I get that, but it's not named after a bug. So I'm getting dark chocolate and espresso right off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
Getting some pepper, black pepper.
Yep.
Definitely dark chocolate. Wow. Yeah.
Oh. Anything else in it?
Cherry.
Like stone fruit.
Yeah,
Interesting. Okay.
but not like a flavored cigar cherry. There was something in the
No, it's the
Something in
difference
the
between
retrohale.
something that's cherry flavored versus actual cherry, right?
yeah.
Like this is
exactly.
why I love cherries. I love cherries. I hate cherry flavored anything.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that, because I would definitely say this is the actual, like a black cherry pulled off of the vine and just a little nibble off of
Oh
that.
man.
I'm getting a little bit of graham cracker.
Ooh, nice. Well, we'll come back to the cigar a little later. Right now, I want to get into. I think Micah had the bottle this week,
I do.
and lay it on us, son, because I want to get drinking.
I usually don't go mainstream on the show. I actually have 2 bottles lined up for future episodes that stray away from things that you can typically pick up off the shelf unless you're in a specific region of the United States.
Or your Howard Hughes.
This in particular, though, I decided to do because this is one of those bourbons that I really enjoy. Feels like an everyday bourbon for me. This is the Michter's U.S. Star 1 Kentucky Straight Bourbon. I got a little bit of history on this, and I know how much you like history, so I wanted
Love
to throw a
history.
little bit on there.
There you go.
So it started in the this particular distillery started in the 18th century in Pennsylvania under the name Schenck's. Then it was renamed to Baumburgers. Then the distillery closed due to prohibition. In the 50s, a guy named Lou Foreman reopened the distillery and renamed it as a combo of his sons' names, Michael and Peter. So, Michter.
Michters.
There you go.
See, the first two names of the distillery owners were very German.
Yeah.
And I thought this was German too, but it totally is
It's
not.
not.
Kind of like a Lorenda.
Yeah.
So this
Sorry,
distillery,
sis.
this distillery in the 50s, it went for a long time. They declared bankruptcy in 1989. Then a guy named Joe Magliocco and Richard Newman reopened the distillery in the old Fort Nelson building in Louisville, Kentucky. They decided to use a pot-to-pot still system. They decided to toast their barrels before charring them, which they had said increases the richness of the flavor of the bourbon. This is an undisclosed mash bill, so I can't give you any numbers, but it's 91.4 proof. And let's get into this, huh?
Nice.
So this is Michter's U.S. Star 1 small batch.
So I wonder why they wouldn't want to put out a mash bill.
I don't know. I mean, and you know what? Listeners, if you get a chance and you find this mash bill, please put it in the comments. We would love to know what it is because I searched far and wide and I couldn't get it. Are you guys ready for the magical sound?
Make it.
I may have dramatized that a bit.
Drug that out. I was so glad that there
Sound like
wasn't
you
a
were
different
opening a
sound
door
at
there
the end
for a
of
minute.
that. I'm going to pass this over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Well, thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, sir. Yeah, this is. Oh, I like that color.
Yeah, it's very caramelly. Caramelly.
Not Carvelli.
Wait.
Cookie Puss.
I'm going back in.
Oh,
That was.
that's a sad sound.
That is a sad. Yeah, that's agreed. That's a sad sound.
Party's over.
Womp, womp.
This party's
followed
just
by
beginning.
a trombone.
All right. Yes, it's a great color. Very nice, deep, rich amber.
Oh, wow.
Honey,
Ethanol hits not too hard on the nose either.
No.
No, it's not.
For a 91 proof.
like almond.
Okay. Have you guys ever had a caramel apple before?
I have.
Yes.
That's what I'm getting.
Really?
Yeah.
Like Halloween time, caramel apple.
I mean, look at all of our bellies and ask us if we've ever eaten anything sweet.
Yeah, just off the
I identify with that remark.
just off the nose. I mean, maybe in a little bit of a strawberry.
Okay. I can see that.
Oh man. Oh.
Brown sugar.
Oh, brown sugar.
Creme
Leather.
brulee.
Yep, creme brulee, leather.
That burnt sugar taste.
Oh, yeah. That's good straight.
Wait. Let's do this.
That is good straight. Oh yeah, cigar pairing.
Okay. Somebody put dark chocolate on my caramel apple.
Ooh. Caramel dipped apples. Or dark
yeah.
dark chocolate covered strawberry.
I see what. So sometimes we drink whiskey on this show that is a bit of a challenge, either in proof or profile. But sometimes I like to drink a bourbon that doesn't ask too much of me. Well, or as you said, it's an everyday, right? You can see you drinking this every day, right?
yeah,
It's an easy drinker.
It is.
That's what I like about that.
We
I
had
think
that
it
on the
pairs
last
nicely
show
with
too.
cigar.
I didn't realize this one was going to be, like that as well. But
it's
the
great.
the more I revisit this particular bourbon, especially with, if anybody's bourbon collection is getting to be looking like mine, I mean, there's
Then-
under
then
cabinets.
you realize you're an alcoholic? Or
Yes.
What's the deal there?
My wife is like, can I have a place for the crock pot? No, I need that.
we don't
I
need to
that room.
eat. We need to
Well,
drink.
I've never had Michter's. I get Whiskey Advocate and all that. And anytime they do any type of list, Michter's is always on there. Like if it's 100 under 100 or whatever it is, there's always Michter's. And I've been
Reliable.
wanting to try it, and I've never had it. So thank you very much for that.
I have. I haven't had this particular bottle, but I've had Michter's. I've also had. They make a pretty good rye too.
Ooh, okay.
But yeah, I'm digging on the Michter's. So we are off and running,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen. We have got
Do it.
the Hornet from Blackwork Studio that we are smoking, and then we've got some Michter small batch in our glasses here. And now what remains is the topic of conversation, which tonight is brought to you by Brent Williams. Brent, what are we going to talk about tonight?
My friends, long have we toiled. Our road has been fraught with those who would stand against us. But tonight, we are redeemed. For we take an unexpected journey. Find your courage and gird your loins.
My loins are so girded right now.
Oh my gosh, I'm girding like a... Oh, never mind.
Speak, friend, and enter into the Fellowship of the Nerds.
Yes!
As we return to Middle Earth.
All right, so Middle Earth.
Middle Earth.
I want to know, first of all, what made you choose the top? I mean, aside from the fact that it's awesome, was there was this in particularly on your mind? Like, did you watch the trilogy, or what happened?
So this came about when they released season 2 of Rings of Power.
Oh, yes.
They released the first 3 episodes. I binge watched those, and then immediately I'm like, we need to talk about Middle Earth.
Agreed.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the stuff that they're dealing with in the series is just like,
Oh, yeah.
in my mind.
How is it? Okay, thank you.
My mind's very small, so it's very quick.
It's more like one of those pops that you throw on the ground.
We'll get to it later, but if you haven't seen episode 4, they need to rename that Love Letter to the Fans.
Oh my gosh, 1,000%.
I've seen it like 600 times since
Have
it
you?
came out.
I've only watched it once, but I
just
still
keep
dream
rewatching
about
it and rewatching it and rewatching it.
I don't know how you guys have time to watch all of this stuff.
I-
I'm lucky if I get to watch 2 or 3 shows a week.
I have 3 screens at my desk when I work. And on one of those screens, I usually have something going, some type of movie.
How do you do that in work?
Well, I don't know. It helps me focus, actually.
I'm the same
Wow.
way. I'm the same way. When I was back in my coding days, I had actually multiple screens going on. I had my iPad off to the side that was usually playing some sort of a show. I had my phone that was auto fighting a certain battle on some phone game I was playing. And then I had 2 additional screens that I was actually coding from.
And then he had 6 Tamagotchis.
And I'm trying to keep them all alive.
And all those bitches
Come on,
died.
you bitches. Yeah, they died. It's like my wife and houseplants.
Dysentery.
You ever see that meme? It's the 2 cowboys standing there, and they're like 8-bit, and he goes, Terry, that's a funny name. And then the next thing is, you died from dysentery.
Which, listeners, if you don't know, was from Oregon Trail.
That's right. And you
my
always
God.
died of dysentery.
Always.
It was amazing.
All right. That wasn't off topic at all. But hey, so first question for the panel.
How many people in Middle Earth died of dysentery?
That was not the question.
Oh, sorry.
But I love that that's what you want to focus on.
Yeah.
We're later going to go out and give Mike a dysentery. I don't know how we're going to do it.
Ew.
But there's some weird stuff in the garage fridge. I just know we're going to get him to drink it, and then maybe he'll get it.
Brent's definitely grown cultures.
Here's
Yeah,
my
I have some
actual
expired pickle
question.
juice. You're welcome to.
When were you guys first introduced to Middle Earth? Michael, we'll start with you.
All right, I was 10 years old. I read the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, and then immediately after that, I read The Hobbit. So my mother is an avid reader, and of all the books that she's gone through, all the series and thousands of books that she's read, she told me that she was not too much of a fan of the Lord of the Rings series. So I decided to give it a shot, and I absolutely fell in love with it.
So she had read them before you? Mm-hmm. And so you guys were just talking, having conversations about books, and she said, well, I read this Lord... Now, did she read the whole thing, or did she read like one book? Or?
No, she read them all.
Wow.
Lord of the Rings, specifically Fellowship, Two Towers. and
Sure, I
Return.
get that, but I'm just amazed that after one book she would just not have gone, not for me. That is to her credit.
It's kind of like the original Star Wars trilogy for me. That's not just 3 movies. That's one story.
Right.
And so I think that she was looking at it like that.
That's very interesting. She said, not my cup of tea, and you went, gimme.
Well, I wanted to know.
When were you introduced to Middle Earth?
Well, if you were 10, I was 9.
Oh, all right.
No, I'm just kidding. It's a competition.
No, you forgot to say, actually, I was 9.
Actually, I don't remember. I remember I was very young, and I read The Hobbit. And I think I found it in the library.
Like you just found it? Nobody recommended it to
no,
you?
like,
All right.
when I was in elementary school, I know I was in elementary school, so I was at least 8 or 9, 4th or 5th grade. And I used to finish my work early. I was that kid, I run the bell curve and all that stuff all the time. So the teacher would let me go to the library and just read books. And I'm pretty sure that's, if I'm remembering correctly, I'm pretty sure that's where I found it. And fell in love with it.
And it was The Hobbit first,
It was
right?
The Hobbit, yeah.
And then from The Hobbit, did you go straight to Fellowship?
Yep.
So I was also 10, but I remember a buddy of mine had said, hey, have you read The Hobbit? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. So he gave me his copy to read, and I read it, and I fell in love with it. Well, my dad saw me reading it, and he's like, "What's that?" And I thought, "Oh, this." I didn't have a great relationship with my dad when he was alive, and I thought this could go very bad. And I said, I'm reading this book. It's sort of fantasy. You probably wouldn't like it." And he goes, "What's it about?" And I said, "Well, there's these little people called hobbits, and they're kind of like dwarves, but not really. And there's elves, and there's wizards, and there's dragons in it." And he goes, "I'll read it when you're done." And he did.
Awesome.
And I loved it. And so by the time I finished reading, I was really hoping he would like it. Like, okay, Dad, I have to tell you, I just like, and it was maybe one of the few things my dad and I ever shared, ever. That and a love of Charlton Heston movies. I don't know why, but there it was. And so, but then my dad he finished it in half the time I did. Then immediately went out and bought the Fellowship trilogy. And so he would read one in a couple of days.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Pass it over to me. It took me several weeks.
Yeah.
So by the time he was finished with Return of the King, I think I was on the last third of Fellowship.
Props to him being able to finish those books in
And
a couple
then
days.
and then he went after the Silmarillion, which I never did. Did either of you guys ever try it?
I got into it, but I never finished it.
So for those of you who are not familiar with the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, the Silmarillion was, the best way I've described it to people is, it was the Bible of Middle-earth.
Very, very close.
Well, so what happened was The Hobbit was published, gosh, what was it, 1937, I think it was?
I don't remember the dates.
And then the publisher was like, "We want more of this." So he had been working on a collection of like myth and lore and backstory and stuff, which is eventually became the Silmarillion. And he presented that to the publisher, and the publisher's like, "This sucks, write something else." And so he said, "Okay." But with my job and everything, he was a philologist, right? Which is a person who studies language.
Not a phlebotomist.
Not a phlebotomist.
Or a phrenologist.
Or
Or a phrenologist.
Right? Or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Which is, a person that studies language, which makes total sense because he's making up languages and stuff in this book, right? So anyway, I believe it took him, I want to say he was 45 when he started the Fellowship of the Ring, or the Lord of the Rings, or 42 or 43 or something. And then he was like around 65 or something when he finished. So it took him nearly 20 years to write them. And they actually were one book. They were not three books. But the publisher divided them into three books because I believe the reason was there was a paper shortage. And they couldn't print the entire book. So they printed the first part of the book and then later the second and the third. So, which thank goodness he did, because imagine trying to carry Lord of the Rings around.
I actually have one of those.
Do you?
I have one of those. It is a book titled The Lord of the Rings. It's got all three books in it. It was a gift from a good friend of mine, and I think it was for my 40th birthday, but he was at, and it's not an antiquated book or anything, but it's big enough that I could hurt an attacker who came into my house.
Like a Webster's Dictionary?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's hardcover, but it is the whole thing. I've got my very worn copies of the three books. Those are the ones I go back to if I want to read. This just sort of has a place of pride on my bookshelf.
Yeah, I still have my mother's. I still have my mother's trilogy that she gave me that I read when I was 10.
Yeah, we've had this really nice leather-bound set. It's part of this book collection my wife did or ordered. And we're not allowed to touch those. So I've never cracked them open.
I have
they
a leather-bound
look super
Hobbit,
pretty on the shelf.
but I don't have the others.
Yeah, for all I know, the pages are just blank inside those books.
There's nothing in there.
Well, to answer your question from before, I'm a huge fan of the Silmarillion, and I know a lot of people that read the Middle-earth stories are not, but I really like the Silmarillion. We can get into that in more detail later.
Maybe as an older person, I should try it again, but I just couldn't get through it. I do have an antiquated copy of The Hobbit from 1966. There was a printing in 1966,
Nice.
which is the year of my birth. I found it in an antiquated bookshop in Shaker Heights, Ohio, called Antiquarius.
I love the name of that.
I do too. We were walking downtown Shaker Heights, which is like this little suburb of Cleveland, and I saw the sign. I'm like, I'm going in. And my then wife was like, "Oh God, we're not getting out of here for less than $1,000." But that was the first thing I saw, and so I've still got that. It's a green hardcover. The dust jacket is long gone. But okay, so it sounds like we were all introduced to Middle Earth through the books.
Yes,
not surprising. Young nerds read books, no problem. But then I want to bring this up because I remember a Ralph Bakshi animated
Oh my
film
gosh.
Oh, yes.
that was The Lord of the Rings, where I think he kind of tried to squeeze all three stories
He
into
did,
a single
and
movie.
slightly unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
He did a pretty good
Return
job
of the King was basically, and then this happened.
Yes, and so yeah, he did a pretty good job of documenting everything that happened in Fellowship and Two Towers for the most part. But then, but you're right, it was Return of the King that was like, and then there was a big battle, and Aragorn becomes king, and we're all good.
Hooray!
Yay!
And there was much
and there was
rejoicing.
much rejoicing.
But I remember I was excited, and again, I was a cable kid in the '80s when the first time I saw this come out, late night on Showtime, and I was like, oh my god, I had no idea there was a movie, no idea.
Yeah.
Now, because when you're young, you're opinionated as hell.
Yeah.
So I remember watching the movie and thinking, first of all, that was very cool, and maybe because the Hobbits kind of looked like the Hobbits in my imagination. It was Ralph Bakshi, so it's all that rotoscope stuff, and it's just kind of cool, and it looks like actual people sometimes, and and then he would drop acid and get into a weird, Mordor sequence or whatever.
No, that was Wizards.
But we're gonna do a whole episode on Wizards, dude.
Yeah.
In fact, I kind of feel like what we should do with Wizards is we should actually do the podcast while we're all watching Wizards.
Oh, that would be
and we
so
all
great.
need to be slightly.
Like a mystery theater.
Mystery
We all
Science
need to be
Theater, yeah.
slightly
Mystery Science Theater
inebriated or otherwise altered at some point.
Well, I don't know how we're going to get inebriated. I mean, it's not like we really do a lot of
Yeah,
drinking.
you're right. We don't drink. So sad. Anyway, but like you guys, I like at the end of it, I was like, well, they left a lot out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and who did The Hobbit? Was that like a Rankin
That was Rankin Bass.
Rankin Bass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guys who gave us Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and all the
Right.
claymation stuff
Right.
that terrified my younger sister. She was like the Abominable Snowman from the Year Without a Santa Claus.
Yeah.
She just terrified. And of course, I couldn't help but rub that in.
Well, I was a huge
He's
fan
waiting
of
for
those animation films because, especially The Hobbit, because if truth be told, The Hobbit is my all-time favorite story out of Middle Earth.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
kidding.
Really.
Why?
Yeah.
Well, so one of the things that I love about The Hobbit, the book, the movies, is that you have a protagonist that doesn't have the skill and agility to fight off thousands of orcs. He relies on his intellect, on his ability to problem solve, and get through situations that otherwise people would just fight their way through, shoot their way through.
Yeah. Which brings me to, I always thought it was funny how, so obviously, we've talked 1,000 times about how, books, movies, different mediums. I really don't want to go see a movie that's just a copy of the book. That's kind of boring. I've read the book. I know things that work in books don't work in movies. I get that. I'm excited to see someone's interpretation because, you're reading the book, you have picture, especially if there's not illustrations, you picture the characters, all that kind of stuff, the scenery, and so I'm always excited to see the movie because it's someone's interpretation,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
is it entertaining? That's all I
Except
care
for
about.
Prisoner of Azkaban, I could have done without that
Yeah.
crap.
Well,
But Tolkien didn't write that.
So anyway, my point there was you were talking about how Bilbo was using his wits basically and stuff. I love in especially the Lord of the Rings. You have Merry and Pippin, right? I mean, all they've ever done is like steal vegetables.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
They're layabouts.
They've never worked a day in their life, whatever. So anyway, they go on this quest. They're handed these swords, and all of a sudden, they're these ferocious orc killers. They're just out there in the battle, just fighting.
So
and killing
now
all
you're
these orcs and
talking
stuff.
about the Pete Jackson films.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
So
I don't want to go off topic. I'm
so
just
I
saying.
want to. No. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But back to something you said earlier in that breath, which was other people's interpretations. What I have learned in my years and years, decades of watching movies, is that there are people out there with way bigger imaginations than me, and I kind of feel like mine's pretty good.
Yeah.
So when I saw Peter Jackson's vision of Middle Earth, it blew my mind.
Oh yeah.
Because it brought all of this stuff, and it was so. And I'm sure a lot of people had this reaction in the theater that was like, that's how I thought it would be, but better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Peter Jackson, he reorganized the story in a more intelligible way to digest it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of my complaints with the Two Towers book was that we spend a good maybe 2/3 of the book saying, what happened to Sam and Frodo?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've been on this journey. They've been walking for God knows how long. And
In the book, you mean?
in the book,
Yeah.
But they abandon those. Tolkien abandons those characters, and all we have is the big story of what's going on with Legolas and Gimli and Stripe.
But in the movie, he ran parallel tracks.
Exactly.
Because you can do that.
Better organization.
Yeah. You just, and if I was going to find fault with Tolkien at all, it would probably be what you said exactly, because now it's not a big deal to jump back and forth between characters in a story or even run parallel plot lines within a novel.
Yeah.
But I guess back then it was kind of taboo. It was like, well, we can either be here or we can be there, but we can't be both at the same time. In movies, you can absolutely do that. I addressed something that Brent said earlier that I think Mike and I might disagree with, which was that Merry and Pippin suddenly became these great orc slayers. They had a little bit of basic training, bro. They were up on Weathertop with Aragorn and Boromir.
No, I get it.
Learning how to fight.
I get it, but there's a difference between practicing and then actually killing something.
Well, if you watch,
and plus you're training and you have this guy going, okay, now do this and parry this and whatever, and then you've got these crazy wild orcs and Uruk-hai coming at you, and you're
that
3
wasn't
feet
even
tall.
their first fight, dude.
I know, you're 3 feet tall and they're freaking just slaying these.
Their
things
first fight was with the Nazgul.
Oh yeah.
Like not
running
even
from them.
like supernatural creatures. Well, no, they tried to get in there.
Buckleberry Fairy.
Yeah,
Let's get the hell out of here.
Well, but one on Weathertop, they actually had to try to protect Frodo.
Yes.
They really, and I think
Unsuccessfully,
100%. He totally took one in the chest. And thank you, Arwen. You did great. But my point is, I think that was a seminal moment of character development in the movies for those characters, because they suddenly realized we'll put ourselves in front of Frodo. Like, we love him that much, and we think that what he's doing is that important, and he's our cousin, he's our friend, and so they do. And I can only speak as a veteran. When you've been shot at in anger, you find your courage, or you find you have no courage, and so I think from then on it was like, well, listen, you guys, we just fought 9 supernatural weirdos, and we're still breathing. Anything else they throw at us, we're going to kick some ass.
That's a great segue into the character development that Tolkien decided to put into the Lord of the Rings things, because nearly every single character, you see them start from one place and evolve into another.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So here's a question for you. In all of Middle-earth, who is your favorite character and why? Start with Brent. I have a feeling you and I are going to say the same thing.
Aragorn.
Ah, you son of a bitch. But tell me why.
He's consistent, right? There's never a question about his character. There's never a moment where you go, oh my gosh, is he going to make the wrong decision?
I am going to challenge that, but please continue.
Well, I'm going off the movies, right? Because it's been years and years since I read the books, but
I'll help you where I can.
yeah, thank you.
You the man, Mike.
But,
You the man.
I don't know. There's just something noble about him. I mean, obviously he's the king, right? But he didn't grow up in that environment,
Right.
But
I'm sorry, grow up like from
He didn't grow
child
up
to
as
adult?
royalty.
he didn't grow up as royalty.
Okay.
Right. He's a ranger.
Like
right?
that family has long since
Because I'd
man
argue-
has long since fallen from
Right.
grace.
I would argue that he did grow as a character.
100%. But what he's
Oh,
he's
no,
talking
grow as a
about,
character,
he's
yeah.
talking about he didn't
Yeah.
he didn't grow up a prince.
Got it.
Although he did grow up with the elves,
Yeah.
so they knew who he was.
Yeah, well, I mean, his mom.
So I'm gonna say that mine is also Aragorn. I agree that there was always a certain nobility about him, but I think if you have a one-note character in a book or a movie, people get tired of him pretty fast, and it becomes difficult to develop empathy. When we first meet Aragorn in the books and in the movies, he is a ranger. He's a wanderer, and he basically saves these ridiculous, naive little halflings because he knows nobody else will, and gets pulled into this. And he's very much a hero who doesn't want to be a hero. He is very much, I'm not going to call him an anti-hero like Deadpool, but he is a reluctant leader.
yes.
Right? And so we see that is where he starts, and where he comes out on top is when, you're there at Return of the King and they're standing in front of the gates of Mordor, which are open with tens of thousands of orcs spilling out, and he just looks at his friends and says, for Frodo, and just takes
that's
off.
what I'm saying. I mean, I never said he was a one-note character. I'm saying he was consistent, right?
Consistent until he decided to take his crown.
Well, okay, yeah, that's a different thing. I mean, he was reluctant in that, but what I'm saying is his character is consistent. And by character, I don't mean the character he plays. I mean his character.
But there are times where he's tempted.
Sure, he is. Well, I mean, who's not?
But those are the moments.
I mean, come on. The moment right before the Uruk-hai attack, when they've gone down the river, and Frodo's afraid he's going to take the ring, and Aragorn,
where is the ring?
Aragorn goes to him, and you see the hand, and then his hand folds over Frodo's and said, I would have gone with you to the end, right?
Right.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that's who
agreed.
he is.
What about yours, Micah?
So I have a two-parter, but I won't get into the second one because I have a feeling we'll get into that later. But my all-time favorite character will always be Bilbo himself.
Okay.
Explain.
Bilbo
Elaborate.
and it all falls back to what we were talking about, Bilbo using his wit. I loved, out of all the other characters, I loved Bilbo's character development. His ability to, all he wanted to do was sit on his property and smoke pipe weed, and drink,
Well, who
and
doesn't?
eat, and definitely.
I mean, that's what I want to do.
And
if that's all it takes to be a hobbit, then I'm definitely a hobbit.
right? And
You gotta need a little hair on the top of your. You need some tuft
Yeah.
on the top of your hair. Your
That's
feet.
true.
there,
Well,
buddy.
you want to know why I don't wear sandals?
Oh,
no, I'm kidding. My hobbit feet. No,
Micah Proudfoot. Proud feet. I'm sorry. Please continue.
it's all good. I thoroughly enjoyed his ability to muster his courage. He did this in the book. He did this in the movies, where he was terrified, and he was never afraid to tell people that he was scared of what he was doing. But he had to muster his courage and really push it forward and use his wit to get out of situations because he was not a swordsman, and he didn't have a training session on Weathertop.
You're absolutely right. Well, and hobbits by nature despise adventures.
Right.
That's why they're hobbits, right?
Right.
And so you, at the end of his character arc, you find that he is he's had many adventures, and he decides to write them all down. And you see him wistful for that time.
Yes.
When we see older Bilbo, that he remembers that time when he was younger and he
Well,
went on these amazing
I
adventures.
think it's about time for
Another adventure.
Well, like
Yeah.
Gandalf tells him, when you return, you won't be the same.
Right.
Yeah, well,
if you return, you won't be the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Real quick, boys. Let's get into the first third of
Yes,
the cigar
I was about to
because
say.
we're definitely in the middle of the
Yeah,
first
I'm
third.
going a little fast on this because I'm enjoying it a little too much. So I'm purposely putting my cigar down.
Same. So what are you thinking so far?
The chocolate is now milky, creamy chocolate. It's so yummy.
Yeah, but I still get that black pepper.
Same. I'm getting the pepper. It's almost like have you guys ever been to a chocolatier that like mixes chocolate and pepper together?
Chocolatier?
A chocolatier.
A chocolatier.
It's a chocolate shop.
Thank you. I was bouncing the word in my head.
Let's
I
say
was
it
like,
like we're from Texas. A chocolatier.
Chocolatier.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you, Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, I love me some chocolatier work when they take the chocolate.
That's what I'm getting on this because I'm like you. I'm
the
getting
funny
the
thing
black
is-
pepper, but it's not dark chocolate anymore.
I'm not getting pepper. Nope. That
We might
chocolate
have
is-
to get you checked.
Yeah.
Because
The
the
chocolate is
last couple of
overwhelming.
cigars we smoked, Mike and I can definitely get notes of pepper, and Brent's like, nope, not getting it.
He's just been burning out his
Are
taste
you
buds.
like,
Well,
are you
put-
shooting
I
like
put,
ghost pepper? Like
I was going to say,
before
I put ghost pepper and habanero on everything I eat.
Yeah, he has no taste buds
Yeah,
whatsoever.
I have no taste buds left.
None.
They've been totally burned off.
None
so
whatsoever.
do not trust Brent's opinion on anything
That's
we do
right.
on this show.
Yeah, at least when it comes to cigars.
This tastes like a plastic bag covered in whipped cream.
Well, that cherry is gone for me now.
Yeah.
I'm definitely getting some sort of a toasted raisin. But it's very, very minor. It's like right on the retro head.
I don't think I've ever had a toasted raisin. I think that's a flavor that would never come to my mind because I've never
Actually,
experienced that.
No, because I've had cinnamon toast bread with raisins in it, which I have toasted. A little butter across.
Yeah, man.
You should try it, Brent. It's really
No,
good.
I don't eat bugs in my bread.
All right, so we will be absorbing all of the critters that come onto our toasted breads.
I guess so.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can have those little pellets that are in the.
Ew. Great. Now the next time I have one of them, I'm going to bite into. I'm like, oh, rabbit pellet.
It's a pellet. And it's a dehydrated pellet. So gross. All right, let's talk about the movies, you guys. Let's talk
Yes.
about Peter Jackson, that brilliant son of a bitch, and Weedaworks in New Zealand, and all of that stuff.
Pioneers in digital technology.
100%. But I also have to say that if I go back and I've done it many times, I've gone back and watched the trilogy over and over and over again. It is so difficult for me to imagine any other actors in those roles.
I agree.
I mean, there are movies where I walk out of the theater thinking, so and so would have been better for that role. In my opinion, it's all subjective. But even the first time in the theater when I saw those 3 films, I was like, and I didn't know half those guys. I knew Ian McKellen, I knew Ian Holm, I knew
Viggo Mortensen.
I knew Viggo Mortensen, kinda.
I knew him from the Prophecy.
I didn't know Orlando Bloom at all. I didn't even recognize John Rhys Davies.
Yeah.
So I at the end I was like, Saul?
The minute he opened his voice, I was
when he
like,
started
talking.
Yeah.
I know
But it was just amazing to me that it was one of those few times I was like, well, that was basically the perfect casting.
When Dominic Monaghan.
I didn't know him before.
Yeah.
But I did know Elijah Wood and
Elijah Wood, yeah.
and definitely Sam.
From Rudy.
Sean Astin. Come on,
Sean
Goonies.
Astin.
I mean, yeah.
Goonies
for sure.
Yeah.
Whitewater Summer.
Which
The answer is no. I still haven't watched it. The answer is I still haven't watched
This
it.
is like me and my Uncle Dave. I'm like, have you watched Firefly yet? No. It's like, you love Westerns and you love space. Come on, man.
Yeah.
We've all seen these movies a baker's dozen times now, but what are your continual takeaways from the experience of watching Tolkien's stories made into these films?
Oh.
Do you know how you know when you've asked a good interview question?
The room goes quiet.
Well, when someone goes, "Oh,"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that a lot.
My continual takeaway. I mean, I watch them over and over again for their entertainment value, but also the cool factor. I mean, come on, the awe factor. I mean, just seeing this world brought to life, and in a very agreeable and consumable way, right? I don't know. It's just. I mean, I still get, when I'm watching Return of the King, and at the end, when Aragorn, after he's been crowned, he's coming down, and he's going through the promenade, and the crowd's parting, and then you see the Hobbit standing there, and they bow, and he's like, "My friends, you bow to no man."
Yeah.
Every single time, huge lump in my throat. Doesn't
absolutely.
matter. I know it's coming, and I can feel the lump starting. And then when he says that,
and I'm
just
helpless to do anything about
every
it.
single time.
So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I every single time am blown away by the Balrog, because I thought when I read the books, I thought I had a pretty good idea of what the Balrog must look like, and then Peter Jackson took my vision of the Balrog and went, "No, son, you're not working hard enough. I can do so much better. Watch this. I'm going to give you a Balrog that will give you genuine nightmares for the rest of your life." Because the first time he come up out of the depths, I laid back in my chair. I was like, "Oh my! That's what a Balrog is supposed to look like."
And the way it lands with such power and
Superhero
size
landing.
and immensity, and I mean, it's just kaboom, and the way it compresses when it rears up. Oh, my gosh.
So good.
So I want to answer that question with it's one of those series that I watch that I already know what's going to happen, but I can't help but feel the anticipation and the anxiety of, are they going to pull it off?
I
this
know,
time?
right?
Every single
Yes.
time. I mean,
Yes.
that's when you know it's good storytelling.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when my wife watches Titanic. There's always a point in the film where she thinks Jack's gonna make it.
They might make it
He's
this
gonna
time.
make it
Yeah.
because we all know there was room on that door.
that
for
door
two.
is big enough for two.
We all know it.
That
We
was
all
the
know
problem with Usual Suspects and Sneakers. It's like I have problems watching those because I know what's going to happen, and I'm not fueled like I am with the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
I mean, Lord of the Rings for me, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, the movies, it's like Friends for me, right? Like
You're comparing Lord of the Rings
no.
to the '90s sitcom Friends.
Yeah, I'm talking about the watchability.
I'm with you,
What I'm
Brent.
saying is, we constantly have that cycling in our house. I mean, we literally start episode 1, season 1. We get to the last episode of season 10. We just start over. It's constant.
We
our
just
house.
finished the last episode last night. We're restarting.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
tomorrow.
And it's like I've literally seen every episode hundreds of times.
Yeah.
I've literally,
And I chuckle just like Larry does at every single
and
episode.
you know the jokes are coming. You can quote the jokes, but you still belly laugh every single time.
Oh,
yeah,
you
and
guys are
that's
hysterical.
what watching the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies is for me. It's like I know it's coming, but I'm still just like when they're on Weathertop, I'm like, oh crap, the Witch King's coming. He's going to stab Frodo. It's
Frodo's
coming.
going to get away this time. Frodo could get away this time.
Yeah, maybe if he would just turn and run, he could get away. I mean, every single time, you know.
Patty
and every
the
time
Blade Man.
when they've got the fire and they're cooking the fire, and he wakes up and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm just like, "You idiots!" Every single time. You know?
Yeah, I always get mad at them for doing that too. Like, you gave away the position, bro. What are you doing? So, I'm going to make an admission. Not a confession, but an admission.
Oh, that's my job. I'm the confessionist.
I know. I'm going to make an admission. I know for a fact that you guys have both watched the Hobbit trilogy, and I must admit to you now that I never have.
What?
So I would like... Well, so I will give you my reasons, first of all. When the movie went into the first one went into pre-production, which I believe is called An Unexpected Journey, Jackson announced that it was going to be a 3-movie deal, and my first thought was, there aren't 3 movies in that story. And the first thing he said in the press conference was, now there aren't 3 movies in that story. So we have...
Did he say, Larry, there aren't 3 movies?
We have expanded the universe. He said, we've gone back on some unpublished Tolkien stuff and filled in. And for whatever reason, right then I was out. I was just like, okay, no, I can't do it. Because like you, I love The Hobbit so much that for people to be taking those kinds of artistic liberties, I just wasn't going to be involved in. However, because you and I, the 3 of us, I should say, have talked offline about this so much. By the way, we talk about nerdy stuff even when we're not behind a microphone. I'm now going to watch it. But since at this time of this recording, I have not watched it, I would like you guys to give us your take and on those 3 films and why you love them, and even though there was a lot of stuff in there that wasn't in the book, why that was okay. So give me the rundown.
Can I start?
Go ahead.
You want to start?
No, go ahead.
I'll start. Well, I think it's like I said before. When I'm watching a movie based on a book, I don't want to watch a movie that is exactly the book.
Sure.
Right? I want to see someone's interpretation of the story. And that means, by definition, that I have to allow them the freedom to creatively fill in gaps or expand the story. And I don't know about you, but if I'm in love with a universe like Star Wars or whatever, I like, for example, I love going to YouTube and watching all this fan-made stuff. And some of it's not great, the dialogue's not great, but it's still just so exciting to see people taking this universe that is so beloved and coming up with their own stories.
Some of it is awesome, though.
Some of it is extremely awesome.
I will say that.
Yeah, some of it is awesome. Extremely awesome. So that's the kind of the way I felt about The Hobbit. I mean, there's, Tariel's not in the books, right? She's an extra character, but that was a great storyline. The love between her and Killy, right? I mean, another lump in the throat at the end when Killy dies, and she's like, "Why does it hurt so much?" And man,
see, you guys were clearly more mature than I was at that point, because if I had thought about it for more than not even 30 seconds, I think where I would have wound up is, wait a minute, I just saw Peter Jackson bring Middle Earth to life in 3 films that I dearly love.
Yep.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's what I should have done, but I didn't, and that's on me. But I will go back to it. All right, so I totally get what you're saying, Brent. Because I've made this argument many times. It's different mediums,
right?
So you want somebody's interpretation. I should have trusted Jackson more. What are your thoughts, Micah?
So, The Hobbit being my favorite of all of them.
See, I would have thought you would have been in my camp, bro.
I'm a huge fan of it. It's because you need wit through the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's the theme. Is that, yes, there are battles going on. The Battle of 5 Armies was a real thing. But it was a very short part of The Hobbit. The addition of Tauriel I thought was very well done. I was a little bit, I guess they needed some eye candy. That's how I felt about Legolas, was the eye candy portion of that, was that they decided to bring him in because in the Hobbit book, he was only there for one moment standing next to his dad.
Right.
He was next to Thranduil, and then we never talk or hear about him again.
Played by the beautiful Lee Pace.
Yes.
He is seriously one of the most attractive men in film.
I gotta tell you.
Not
until he leans forward and you see all those scars.
cigars.
But
Even then.
yeah, right.
All he has
Even,
to do is just talk, and I'm
even
like,
when he was Ronan the Accuser, I was
Yeah.
like, I still love you, bro.
you're pretty blue too.
Yeah, but
But I will
nice
tell
blue.
you that I'm on your side when it came to the fact that I heard that we were getting 3 movies. I'm like, you don't really need 3 movies to tell that story.
Well,
I mean,
they-
maybe 2 if you really want to wrap in some serious
I'm
battles.
sure there were some concessions made to the studio,
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
which is,
Well,
hey
that's a
man,
good
we'd
paycheck.
love,
I mean,
we'd
they
love
did
Well,
3 of these.
Yeah.
He filmed Lord of the Rings all at once,
Yes.
and the studio was like, that worked great, and these movies made us a ton of money. Do it again.
Yep. Well, I remember, I can't remember who it was. It might have been John Rhys Davies or possibly Orlando Bloom. No, actually, it wasn't. It was Peter Jackson who said, when we finished the edit, from the time we started pre-pro on Fellowship of the Ring to the time we finished the edit and the release of Return of the King, he had been on the same project for almost a decade.
Yeah,
That, you want to talk about commitment?
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's just insane.
That's a
And
Star Trek actor.
Speaking as an actor, for those actors in those films, they had to make the same commitment. And you know, those are bonds that don't. So I think when you're doing a trilogy like that and you're shooting concurrently, it's not like being in combat, but it is a lot like being part of a military unit. It's like you develop bonds that never go away. I know those guys all got tattoos, the same tattoo.
Yeah.
I know they're still all very close friends to this day. Dominic Moynihan and who's the other one? Merry and Pippin. Dominic and
I
I
could tell
forgot
you.
his name.
I can see his face too.
right
Bugs
on
me.
the tip of
They
my
actually
tongue.
have a podcast together.
Oh yeah,
But it is a commitment, and again, I freely admit I should have given Jackson more credit for what he had done before when he was going after the Hobbit trilogy. So I am going to watch that along with
they're good movies.
what's
And
the
there
other
couldn't
movie I'm
be-
supposed to watch? Wet Hot Summer, and
Whitewater Summer.
Whitewater Summer, yeah, something like that. I was like,
Yeah, whatever that was.
Well, I mean, the Hobbit, it's super entertaining,
And could there be a better Bilbo? Martin
right?
Freeman.
Come on, Martin Freeman. Which I love Martin Freeman.
do love Martin
He's one of those actors that no matter what character he plays,
he's Martin Freeman,
he's Martin Freeman.
Keanu Reeves.
He even turned
Tommy Lee Jones.
yeah,
Tommy Lee Jones.
He even turned Bilbo into Martin Freeman. His greatness.
Can we talk about the second third of the cigar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I am just there. You, sir, are definitely ahead of us at this point.
Yeah, I'm
Super
trying.
creamy.
I'm trying super hard to not to.
Yes, creamy.
Super creamy.
Yeah. So I have to believe that is a function of the fact that, our viewers can't see this, but the Hornet, up toward the cap of the cigar, has 3 candela bands, which are the green leaves. So when we are smoking this cigar, we are getting some of that. I think that's where the creaminess is coming from.
You think so?
I believe so.
it's
Because
just
and
from a matter
I
of
should have
this-
asked you guys this early, because the foot of this cigar has the candela foot on it, and that lasts smoking time maybe 5
But
minutes.
sets the tone and,
It sets
kind
the
of
tone.
flavors.
But
the
then
rest
did you notice that the flavor profile changed?
Yes.
The grass and the hay and all that kind of went to the background. Didn't disappear.
Yeah.
But it went to the background. And this is what I love about boutique cigar guys that like to innovate, right? It's just so yummy. One of these times, I would like to have a pure candela on this show.
Yeah.
And see what you guys think of it.
Yeah.
Have you, Mike? I'm asking you this question. Have you ever smoked a candela
I
cigar?
have.
Have you?
I may have something ramped.
Oh, boy.
okay.
All right. I retract my previous statement. I will not do that. I will give you the freedom to do that.
I am getting s'mores.
Ooh.
So
Yeah.
I started.
So you
off
said graham cracker in the
graham
beginning.
cracker, and then the chocolate and the creaminess, and it's s'mores now. So yummy.
All that
also a little bit of pepper.
Oh, there we go.
Finally.
All that
Finally.
cherry has gone away and has lent itself to something a little bit nutty for me. And I don't want to say that
You
there's
nut.
a distinct almond flavor going on, but it's definitely at the
there's
very tail end.
definitely a distinct almond flavor going on.
I don't want to say almond, but it is an almond.
I'm totally saying that.
I'm not saying aliens, but it's aliens.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, so your choices will be limited, Larry. But favorite movie out of all of them: Hobbit, Lord of the Rings trilogy, even the animated ones. Favorite one?
Well, for me at least, it'll be Desolation of Smoke. Smaug.
Well, so within the
Smaug.
trilogy, was that the second one or the last
That's
one?
the second
Second
one
one.
of The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that takes us to the conversation and the battle of wits between Bilbo and Smaug
And
himself.
the played by Benedict Cumberbatch,
Oh, yes.
or as Brent calls him,
Dirkabit Cumberbund.
But I absolutely love the exchange between the two. It is darn near identical to the book, and that battle of wits. The other thing that I really really love about it, although there was a lot less, is that inside of all of the books, something that we don't mention or we haven't mentioned yet is that there's songs. There's
Yeah.
songs
Oh, yeah.
throughout through the Lord of the Rings. There's
Yep.
for the
Yep.
Hobbit, and you get. All I could think of when I was sitting there watching the very first Hobbit movie, I was thinking to myself, "Oh my God, please sing, please sing, please sing!" And they did.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I really liked was that most of the animals can speak. The wargs can speak. The eagles can speak. The spiders can speak. And so when we got to the spiders, then we actually got to hear them talk when Bilbo was wearing the ring, even
Right.
though they were talking the whole time in the book.
Right.
Yeah. And the elves weren't completely good guys.
Right.
The wood elves had captured the the dwarven company, and it was seeing it from that perspective. Mm-hmm. And the tale of Bard, who is one of my favorite characters.
Bard, yes.
Luke Evans.
Evans.
Yeah, Luke Evans.
Dude who just wanted to take care of his family
That's right.
and
Yeah.
do his thing.
Leave me alone.
Another reluctant
Leave me
leader.
alone. Now I gotta
Another,
go kill a dragon. God.
another reluctant leader.
So
you can eat those tots. Tina,
So-
come eat your dinner.
I will now answer your question. For me, it's Return to the King.
Yeah.
And not just because the story gets tied up, but because at the beginning of that movie, for those people who have not read the books, it is very not decided. You know what I'm saying? The battle is not decided.
All right.
And you've got everything that's going on in Gondor, and it just gets worse and worse for Bilbo and Sam, or for Frodo and Sam. And it just, so I love the fact that even though I knew how it was going to turn out, again, you talk about that anxiety and that tension. Peter Jackson did such a great job of holding on to all of that I was like, this could go the other way. What's happening?
Yeah.
And then, of course, to finally see Aragorn come into his own and assume the rightful place of king, and to I think what I love most about that film is that we now see the complete evolution of all of these characters. Merry and Pippin, Aragorn. One of my favorites was the relationship between Gimli and Legolas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To see two like bitter enemies in Fellowship
Yeah.
become, through combat and trial and difficulty, the best of friends.
Well, I love the dichotomy of Legolas in the Hobbit movies versus the Lord of the Rings movies. In the Hobbit movies, he's much darker, much more brooding. He's jealous of Tariel and Gilly.
Oh yeah.
And then in Lord of the Rings, you see he's still intense, but he's more jovial, right?
Yeah, he's a little bit more relaxed.
He's a little more relaxed.
I would touch more on what Larry was talking about. The relationship between Gimli and Legolas is especially special because of the fact that elves and dwarves have a severe distrust of each other.
They got a bad history, bro.
A lot of bad history, a lot of bad blood, and they are truly friends by the end.
And I have a question for you guys, because I have not seen any of Rings of Power. So my question is that adversarial relationship between elves and dwarves explored in the series?
Big time.
Okay.
Big time. And you can see the distrust and it's almost like it's like watching two negotiators go into a business meeting and not know what the other needs to hear to make that meeting successful. Because the elves will say one thing and they think they're being polite, but the dwarves take everything as offense.
Yeah.
And it's like everything they're saying is offensive, and everything the dwarves say and vice versa.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
So
I do
go
want to
ahead.
get into the Rings of Power movies.
Well, let's get into it right now because let's get into it now because again, like the Hobbit trilogy, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So you guys, let's talk about it. What is it that you like about it? Don't like about it? Give me your thoughts.
Well, I mean, basically, it's set 2,000 years before the Hobbit, right? And this
2,000 years.
2,000. And this series gets a lot of flack from people, and I don't understand why, because it's based partly on the works of Tolkien, you know, but there's so many gaps in that history. I mean, they need the creative license in order to fill in those gaps, like we talked about before. And I love what they're doing with the story. I love Galadriel. She's all about, we got to kill Sauron no matter what it takes. I love Elrond saying, we do need to kill him. However, let's be cautious about using these rings because we don't know if Sauron was involved in their creation or not, which I don't think
I was going to say until she got her hands on a ring.
And then she gets her hand on a ring. And, you know, even this last episode where she's sending them back and she takes off the ring and gives it to Elrond and says, you know, take this and take them back. And they're like, she's sacrificing herself for us. He's like, no, she's protecting the ring is what she's doing. Right. So anyway, so let's just talk about the elephant in the room before we go any further. Episode 4, season 2.
Oh, wait, before we do that, the Rings of Power stuff is, just so everybody knows, if they're dodging this series for the sake of the fact that there is no definitive literature on this, it is cherry-picked information from Lost Tales.
Right.
I think I told you, gentlemen, a while ago that it was from Unfinished Tales. That was wrong. They're called the Lost Tales.
Right.
And these are pieces of work that Tolkien worked on, that Christopher Tolkien decided to pick up and finish and put into books so that we could actually have some information. Same thing happened with Silmarillion. Right.
And we know at the end of whenever the series ends, I mean, the ending is the result is still the same. We still get all the history that leads up to the Hobbit, right? But we get to see how they got there, and that's where they get to take the creative license, right? Is what these guys are doing.
And one thing that they're being really, really faithful to is that one thing that Sauron is called often is the deceiver.
Yeah.
And the Rings of Power show has really explored how he's gone about smoothing things over and gaining trust and truly deceiving people. That's how you earn a title.
I mean, when he comes out of the fire at Celebrimbor, he's like, oh, I'm this magical elf god.
I'm a
he's
big
like,
elf god.
okay, well, let's do what you say then.
Yeah, because I mean, he totally thought that guy was Valar.
Yeah.
So you'd recommend it, is what I'm
Oh,
hearing.
absolutely. Okay,
Absolutely.
okay. Season 2, episode 4.
Okay.
Finally. Okay, so Lord of the Rings trilogy. Peter Jackson totally skipped over the Barrow Whites and Tom Bombadil.
Yep.
Because he thought it didn't really move the story forward.
And it didn't.
Right, and it didn't. He's right.
Even though those
He's
are
right.
some of my absolute favorite
So we've
parts
waited,
of the book.
what, 20-something years? How old are
Yeah.
those movies now?
Yeah.
Finally, episode 4, Tom Bombadil.
Oh my gosh! And all the dialogue that he's using.
I mean,
straight out of the Hobbit.
The minute-
Fellowship.
Fellowship, yeah.
So the stranger, which has to be Gandalf, right?
It is Gandalf.
And I'll tell you why I think that in a minute. Well, because there's been speculation. Is he one of the Blue Wizards, you know, or who is he, right? Is he even Saruman, right? Saruman. But anyway, so he's searching for these stars, right? He's got this little map. And they get separated. They're at this well and they're drawing water, and the people come, and so he conjures up this storm. He gets separated from Nori and Poppy.
Because he can't control his power.
He can't control his power
Every
right now,
single time Gandalf unleashes some sort of power that he has.
Yeah.
I mean, it is torrential.
So anyway, he comes around the corner, and you hear the singing, you hear the and you see the hair. The minute he stands up, and you see the yellow boots.
Oh, the yellow
I was just
boots.
like, yes!
And I was kind of hoping that it was going to be one of the Blue Wizards before we found out that it was going to be Tom Bombadil.
Yeah.
I was hoping it would be one of the Blue Wizards because the books only mention the Blue Wizards once.
Yeah.
And it's just in passing. It's very brief.
Yeah.
And they don't know what's going on with those Blue Wizards.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I just absolutely lost it. I mean, we got to see two things. We got to see the Barrow Whites, and then the whole thing with Goldberry. You know, you distinctively hear a woman's voice.
Yeah,
and
the
then,
River Daughter.
Yeah, and then he's like, and then the stranger's like, who else is here? And he's like, well, there's you and there's me.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah.
So when you read Fellowship of the Rings and the hobbits come across Tom Bombadil for the first time, he's singing his song.
Yeah.
And he's always singing about his bride.
Yeah.
He loves the River Daughter, and you actually get to see her. I see figuratively in the book. But you hear her voice in Rings of Power, and she's not around. Where is she?
Oh.
Because she's a fae.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Or a dryad or something like that.
No, she's a river fae. That's what she is.
Yeah.
You say that with such certainty. I love that.
Because I know things.
Yeah.
I know people.
Yeah.
And I know river faes.
Here's
damn
why
it.
I think. Here's why I think it's Gandalf. Nori and Poppy, they find the Stewards, right?
Uh-huh.
Which are, the other branch of the Hobbits, basically. The Harfoots came from the Stewards, and you found out where the Harfoots come from, right? Why they're wandering all the time.
Well, that's
But-
the other thing, is that the Stores are the foundation race
Right, that's
of
what
the
I'm saying.
Hobbits.
That's what I'm saying.
And then they were talking about that collection of Hobbits that went off on their own.
Right.
And that's what establishes the Hobbit communities that we know in Lord
Okay,
of the
so,
Rings.
the Shire.
the Shire,
he's
yes.
looking for a place called the Shuzak, which is the Shire, becomes the Shire, right? But the other thing is the leader of the Stores, when Poppy and Nori come in, and they say, we're looking for our friend, and they start to describe him, and they say, he's really big, he's a giant. And they say, like an elf, and they're like, no, he's like really big. And she goes, what, like a great big grand elf?
I caught that too, but do you
Oh,
think there's
funny.
hidden meaning
Yeah.
in that?
I think so.
Grandelf.
Grand elf. Yep.
That's funny. Okay, I'm totally checking that out.
Yeah.
Please do.
I'm totally checking that out.
It's
We
worth
are
it.
we are currently. What are we working through right now? Oh, this is totally off topic, and it's going to be okay because we're almost at the end of the episode. I got my wife to watch Fallout with me,
Oh.
and she's loving it.
Oh,
she has
should.
she has no idea about the video game, none whatsoever, and I'm cool with it. But she's totally digging on the story.
Did you play?
I play a little bit.
All right.
I play a little bit. I played enough to know that good on them for hewing to the source material, right? Because that was one of those. So
But
this
an
is-
independent storyline that you can get on board with because it's still fresh material.
Right.
Exactly. So, and I'm loving the performances. Walton Goggins can do no wrong.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like
Except for his forehead.
if they, no,
come
actually, and here's why. Because if I was going to have anybody else other than Hugo Weaving as Elrond, it would have been Walton Goggins.
I can see that.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And because you're seeing his forehead
Well, I'm
right
just
now,
a huge
aren't
Walton
you?
Goggins fan. I mean, I follow him on Instagram, and if I see any movie or TV and it says Walton Goggins in it, I'm watching it. I don't care what
Straight
it is.
up. I think he should have been in Middle Earth.
Yeah.
He definitely should have been.
I was actually going to say that we need to wrap back around to Silmarillion.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah. So you mentioned something about being kind of the Middle Earth Bible.
Right.
And I would arguably say maybe the first third of the Silmarillion is like that because that's
It's the creation story.
It is
right?
the creation story.
Yeah.
Iluvatar, who creates the
The planet.
yes, and the Maiar.
Which, by the
and
way,
Valar.
first age, that planet is flat.
Yes.
And then
Wait,
after,
wait. Like Asgard flat?
Like flat.
All you
Flat,
flat,
flat.
earthers right now,
Yeah.
get on board.
Yeah. And then in the second age, it gets reformed into the globe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So one of the things that's great about that is it is a creation story, and one of the things that that happens there is that Iluvatar creates all of his children essentially, and the whole purpose of creating them is to create a song.
Oh.
They need to create a song that they can sing in unison and live in harmony.
Even though they're different creatures,
Correct.
they're going to sing the same song.
Well, different creatures, same types of beings at this point.
Okay.
So you've got these. Now, there's one character in there which definitely alludes to the Lucifer storyline in the Bible, is that Melkor is one of these creatures, or entities rather, that he wants to write his own song. He wants to stray off. He wants to do his own
Wants
music.
to do his own thing.
And Iluvatar is like, no way. That's not how we do things in my house. And
But Dad!
he warned, yeah,
I want to be an indie artist.
he warns him over and over again, and he continuously creates his own song. And what's interesting about that is that with the permission, humans and elves are created, right? But there's this wonderful, wonderful entity called Alway, who decides to go off on his own quietly and create the dwarves. Now, instead of just rearing up against Dad and saying, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, Alway says, Dad, I did something, and
I might have gotten drunk
I
the other
may
night,
have done because
and now there's dwarves.
Alway was basically the craftsman
Yeah.
of the group, so he wanted a race,
Which is what the dwarves are.
what the dwarves are.
Yeah.
And so he creates them, but he actually goes, Iluvatar punishes Alway, but says, but you can keep your race. We're not going to destroy them like we're going to destroy anything that Melkor does. And then Melkor becomes Morgoth.
Okay.
He actually renames himself.
Right. And he steals the Silmarils, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which are those
Melkor and
stones.
Morgoth sounds a lot like Mordor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And Sauron is actually under.
A lieutenant.
He's a lieutenant, yeah.
He's a lieutenant of Morgoth.
So he's like a
He's
a mafia capo.
When we come into the Rings of Power, so basically what happened was the men and the elves get together. They battle Morgoth. They defeat Morgoth. As a reward, the elves give the humans Numenor and give them the gift of long life, right? As time goes on, the Numenorians get jealous of the elves' immortality, and there's another battle. And that's when, believe it's after that battle is when the planets reformed into the sphere. But that's kind of when the distrust between the elves and the men start as well, because they were totally friends in the beginning.
Yep.
Right? So anyway, but Sauron survives. They thought they defeated Morgoth, and they thought Sauron was dead. And then we find out in season 1 of the Rings of Power, he's not dead yet.
Yeah.
So in the Rings of Power, by the way, listeners, we're so into the nerd weeds right now, but stick with us. What kind of a creature is Sauron?
He's akin to a Maiar.
Yeah.
So he's kind of that lower level immortal demigod.
I was going to ask, is he a demigod?
He's a demigod.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much, yeah. But he's in human form. I love it when
He
they
can take
show
any form he wants.
Yeah, I love it when he's trying to rally the orcs and stuff, right? Like, this is our time and whatever, and they all just go whatever, and they just kill him.
he's like, oh my gosh, you can stab me all you want, and,
Yeah.
and then he's like, oh my god, I don't think that I can take 50 swords.
Yeah,
Wait,
Yeah.
when I said all you want, I meant like 10 of you.
Yeah, I mean, because the way he dispatches the first wave of orcs that come in and start like hacking on him.
Yeah.
I mean, he does a phenomenal job, Sauron style, with a big old mace.
Yeah.
But no, they stick him until he bleeds, and then to see his recreation
Yeah.
in Rings of Power,
Yeah.
he's basically Venom.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, he's this black sludge. He starts off by like basically absorbing the life force of smaller creatures, a la Lestat from Interview with the Vampire,
Yep.
until he starts regaining some sort of form.
right. Yeah, yeah. It's super interesting. I mean, even if you can argue that, oh, this isn't accurate or this isn't according to the story or whatever. I mean, I think that the source material leaves a lot of room for interpretation.
Well,
Definitely.
and this is the thing I wanted to talk about, because throughout history there are these storytellers that are so good and deliver to us worlds that are so rich and so full, and then they leave this earth.
Yeah,
But we want more,
we do.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm prepared, more so than ever after talking to you guys, to allow the artistic license, provided it's in the hands of a competent storyteller.
You just have to.
But I won't know that until I watch the show, right? I won't
Something-
know that until
Yes.
I read the books or watch the show or whatever it is, that this is a continuation. So here's a good example. Gene Roddenberry's been dead for a long time. Still making Star Trek stuff.
Yep.
And
Yeah, as long as Brandon Bragg is not a part of it, I'm on board.
Wow.
on this episode of Things That Piss Micah Off,
You want to know what pisses me off?
what
I'll
pisses
tell
you off,
I'll
Micah?
tell you.
Go ahead and tell
That
us in
son
your
of a-
best Brooklyn
that
accent.
son of a bitch.
That son
I
of
saw
a
that
bitch.
mother. He came in. I didn't say it. Did you hear me say it? I didn't say it. So what happens? This guy comes in and he pisses everybody off, and they got to kill him again.
Oh my God, I love that. You just proved my point exactly.
Yeah.
In the hands of the right storyteller, I am prepared to allow for, because I do want more of that. I do want more of it.
You've said something in the past that is totally appropriate right now is the ability to suspend your disbelief.
Yes.
And this is one of those perfect moments. You have to realize that there are a lot of people that have not gone through the Lost Tales, all of them.
Right.
So a lot of people are like, that's not in the book, that's not in there. But they are borrowing parts of that, but the creative license that they're taking on everything is extreme. So as long as you just absorb it for what it is.
I have a corollary story to that, which now that I think about it, I wish I had thought of this earlier because I would definitely have jumped on Rings of Power. I would have jumped on.
Before we do that, do we want to do final third,
boys?
I'm pretty close, so yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. Go ahead.
Oh well.
Oh my gosh, that raisin on the retrohale. Ever since Brent taught me how to retrohale.
Yeah.
So I find it interesting that I can still taste the grassiness.
Me too.
Of these little candela bands that are in the cap of the cigar.
Yeah.
And it's mellowing out what probably would be a giant pepper bomb for me at this point.
Yeah, I'm getting more and more pepper. Obviously, the fire's closer to the draw. That s'more has gone away, and I'm going to say, I think I agree with you. I think I'm getting raisin now.
As hard as that was for him to say, he said it.
I'm getting rabbit pellets.
No. So this is an interesting thing that you keep bringing up about these bands at the very end. I find it fascinating that the act of not burning it, but the act of the smoke and the heat passing across it is delivering a flavor.
Sure, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hands off to the boys at Blackworks because
Definitely.
This is such a unique and you're going to post a picture of this cigar for this episode.
Yeah.
And so when you guys see it, you'll see what we're talking about, the descriptor and everything. But if you've never smoked candela before and you just want to experiment, like you did in college, then I highly recommend this cigar because it's so good.
He didn't specify what type of experimentation.
I knew exactly. There's only one kind of experimenting in college,
I want to keep
baby.
us on Apple, you guys. I don't want to die. All right, now I'm going to go back to the corollary.
Yes, your story.
So talking about taking bits and pieces and then making it your own thing. In 1999 or 2000, some music artists, Billy Bragg and the band Wilco, got together with the daughter of the great folk singer Woody Guthrie. She had found an old trunk that belonged to her dad, and inside of this trunk were page after page of poems and lyrics of stuff that he never produced. And she loved these guys as musicians, and she just reached out and said, I would like you guys to take a look at this because I think you could do something with it. And I mean, Billy Bragg was like, "Oh my God, are you like that?" That's like finding the Holy Grail if you're that kind of an artist, right?
I love that. This is the same story that happened with Yoko giving the rest of the Beatles,
right?
The rest of John's pieces when he left the band.
So she picked out certain ones, and she said, "You have access to all this." So they went and they made an entire album called Mermaid Avenue. And I highly recommend you listen to it. It's a brilliant album, and what it is, it's Billy Bragg and Wilco's musical take on lyrics and poems by Woody Guthrie, one of the great American folk artists of our time. And it is a beautiful album. It was seriously an album that I listened to that I thought, if Woody had been alive, that's the album he would have made out of those lyrics. I wish I had that in my head earlier, instead of just being a Puritan and like, no, I can't. You can't take artistic license with this.
Okay, but I think that's just a phase of every fan when you go through, especially when you've discovered something new and you're in love with it so much. I think there's actually an element of fear if someone taking the wheel on this universe that you love, and you're afraid they're
going to do something you don't like. And by the way, that happens all the time.
It happens all the time.
Like if you look at and I still feel like this is on topic because we're talking about taking artistic license, Rings of Power. What Disney has done with like the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
I think there have been some great things they've done. There's been some things that I don't like so much.
As long as Jon Favreau is attached to it.
As long as Jon Favreau is attached.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to do a Star Wars episode.
I can't believe we haven't already.
Yeah, right.
Or a Star Trek episode.
Well, that's coming.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think it's hilarious to me how when Disney bought Lucasfilm, they scrapped everything that came before, all the book series, everything, and said, nope, that's all legacy now. It's not canon anymore. But they've slowly been bringing the popular parts of the legacy Thrawn, back into it. So.
By the way, we have done a Star Wars episode.
We have?
Yeah, the prequels, that didn't count.
That didn't count.
The prequels?
that was just 2 hours of hating on.
We're going to get into a conversation
we need a
that
love
pays,
fest about
yes.
Star Wars.
That's fair. I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Well, so I have a question for you guys. If you could be any character in Middle Earth, not your favorite character, not Bilbo, not Aragorn, who would you be?
Samwise Gamgee. I love how
that was fast.
It was fast.
I think he's thought about this.
Oh my gosh. Well, and I won't lie. It's I have a confession.
Here we go. Hey, wait, Brent. I'm going to ask you for this episode. When Micah just said, "I have a confession," we need a music sting for it.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Continue, please.
So, Samwise Gamgee. He is a gardener. His whole passion is gardening, living in the Shire, enjoying his life, keeping it as simple as possible. He goes out there, and what is he fighting for the most? He's not fighting for the preservation of Middle-earth. He's fighting for Rosie.
Oh, yeah.
And the idea of having children with this beautiful, beautiful hobbit, becoming the mayor of this town. Actually, I don't even think that was his aspiration. But he got it. He got it.
That is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Oh, I'm sorry.
I think that piece of music just needs to be like, put that on your phone, and anytime you have a conversation, like, honey, I need to talk to you about something.
My love.
Except mine would be.
Yeah, that's right. Honey, where would you like to go to dinner tonight?
And that's actually
I'd like
my
to go
confession.
to a farm-to-table restaurant.
That's my confession. Is that I envy the lifestyle of a hobbit so much. I've had so many different thoughts, business opportunities that I could create a hobbit village that has a tavern and a store.
Don't they have that in Wellington, New
Maybe.
Zealand?
I mean, but I'd like to make it a little bit more local.
Well, fair. We don't have enough hills
But
around
I love
here,
that.
but okay.
I love the idea of farming and
Work
brewing.
with your hands.
So you didn't leave this as a stipulation, but I would have to say that the character I would most want to be is the character who's also my favorite, and that's Aragorn. And the reason for that...
No, I did make a stipulation. I said it couldn't be your favorite character.
Yeah, any other character.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go to you then, because I got to think about this.
I would want to be Galadriel.
What about
that? Is a
I wanna hear-
Pandora's
before
box that just got opened.
Yeah, I was
going to
say, before we rip
Why?
into this one and just do like a whole male-female stupid thing.
I'm totally kidding. I would want to be Legolas because I want to be pretty again. Legolas or Thranduil. I want to look like Thranduil, but be like Legolas.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have my answer.
Okay.
Treebeard.
Great
Because
choice.
I am an introvert and I
Yep.
don't want to be around people.
That's
I want
right.
to do my own thing and be left alone.
And you want to take 30 years to get a sentence out?
But if it comes down to a fight, I'm going to fight.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to bring the heat. So if I can't be the character that I most identify with, I would be Treebeard for sure. But only if I could have the voice of John Rhys Davies.
Oh, definitely.
I think I would be better than Legolas or Thranduil. I think I would probably be a better Gimli. I kind of look like him.
I'd like to be.
Without the beard.
I'd like to be.
We're about the same stature, I think.
I'd like to be Radagast.
Oh, yeah.
Radagast the Brown?
Because you want birds pooping on you? You're walking around with bird poop just dripping down.
I wouldn't care. It's the love for all things nature around me. I hate to sound all flower child about
Well, but
it.
that goes right along with your Samwise
You
thing. then.
damn hippie.
Yeah, that goes right along with that. And plus, the coolest thing is you can
You
have
probably
a
listen to Indigo Girls too.
Yeah, he did. He totally did.
I know.
did.
A
I
little
did.
fair.
I
I get
did.
it. No,
I
we had
did.
that conversation.
Yeah, and the coolest thing is you get to have a sleigh pulled by rabbits. So
That wouldn't be the worst thing.
Rastable rabbits.
yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, for me it would definitely be Treebeard. But
that's very interesting. I mean,
we got to see an Entwife.
yeah,
We didn't even bring that up.
and she was pissed.
She was pissed off.
yeah,
Oh my gosh,
this
she's
is in Rings of Power.
Yes,
Yeah, in
she's
episode 4.
she's a cherry blossom,
yeah,
Of course she is.
but like 4 times the size.
yeah.
Oh my god.
and she's mad. Have you ever taken axe to tree? Regretfully, no.
Who drug mud into my kitchen?
Oh my gosh, that was such a great episode.
Oh, it was so fantastic.
Well,
So
you
good.
guys, first of all, I think of all the episodes we've done so far, this is the one where I've learned the most because you guys are way ahead of me on the films. And Micah, you are just literally, you are like the walking Silmarillion. So that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for enlightening me. I'm definitely going to go out and watch the Hobbit trilogy first, and I'm going to get right on Rings of Power.
I would love to hear you.
Whitewater Summer's going to have to take a back seat.
Oh, like it
because
always does.
I got a lot to do. I mean, if I get drunk on my balcony, which is not unheard of, I might squeeze that in.
I would love for you to.
Yeah. And by the way,
I think it would be better if you're drunk, actually.
well, so here's the part you don't like. I'm probably going to be watching at like 2 o'clock in the morning because my wife's out of town, and I'm going to be texting you guys in real time.
Do it.
All right.
I will
about
wake
what
up.
I
will
what I
answer.
think
I'm
about the
usually
film.
awake
You know
anyway,
what?
so-
Speakerphone all the way. Texting, forget that.
Outstanding.
We're gonna be on speakerphone. We're going to talk.
I will FaceTime you through the entire movie.
But
you'll
we'll
only
put
be
it on
looking,
at the same time. We'll simulcast.
You'll only be looking at my glass of whiskey, and maybe I'll put my cigar in the camera shot at some point. You won't see me at all. Well, this has been great, you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in to the latest episode. If we missed one of your favorite characters of Middle Earth, or if you have something you want to add to the conversation, by all means, reach out to us at nerdherfers.com. You can always comment on our Instagram page. We're building our community, guys, and we love it. Thank you so much for being a part of the community and the conversation. We look forward to many, many more people joining us, and let us hear your voices. We want to hear from you. I am Larry Brantley, and I am here with Micah Donahoe
Live long and prosper.
and Brent Williams.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen, which is German for keep your shirt on. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
In the middle of the earth, in the land of Shire, lives a brave little hobbit whom we all admire. With his long wooden pipe, fuzzy woolly toes, he lives in a hobbit hole and everybody knows him. Bilbo, Bilbo Baggins, he's only 3 feet tall. Bilbo Baggins, the bravest little hobbit of them all.
This has been a production of Nerd Herfers, copyright 2024, all rights reserved. No portion of this broadcast may be used without permission. Please visit nerdherfers.com for more information and full legal disclaimer. You
Just
nerd.
like to eat and be left alone. But one day Bilbo was asked to go on a big adventure to the caves below to help some dwarves get back their gold that was stolen by a dragon in the days of old. Bilbo Baggins, only 3 feet tall. Bilbo